Chief Moyer, you don't have to be on this particular meeting if you would like to hop off, if you want to, you can be here. We just need you for the next hour at 10 o'clock.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, enjoy your coffee.
It is now 9 o'clock. Are we ready to call this to order?
Give me 1 second here. IT kicked me off. It's rather rude, actually. It's probably me, but hey, hold on for 1 second. Are we
Sure.
ready to go live, Tobias? No, we're still not ready to go live yet, so we're working on it.
Oh.
Okay, Randy, it's all yours.
Good morning and welcome to the Post Advisory Annual Subcommittee meeting for selection of the Post Excellence in Training Awards. We're going to begin with opening for public comment. This is the time set aside for members of the public to comment on items on the agenda. The chair will manage the public comment period in deference to the committee's workload and meeting time constraints. Up to 15 minutes is allotted at the beginning of each meeting for public comments on items on the agenda. Members of the public who wish to speak are asked to limit their remarks to no more than 5 minutes each. If we have many people who wish to speak on the same topic, I, as the chair, may intervene and will ask that you limit remarks to no more than 1 minute. Pursuant to existing commission policy, the chair may conclude the public comment period if multiple speakers are voicing repetitive or similar statements and the 15-minute public comment period has expired. Please remember, well, that's embarrassing. Please remember that this meeting is being transcribed, so I may politely interrupt and ask you to repeat or speak slowly and clearly so your comment can be correctly captured in the transcript. If there is anyone watching who would like to address the committee during public comment, please call in to the number shown on the screen at this time. We will take the calls on a first come, first serve basis. If other persons are in the queue waiting to speak, you will be placed on hold until it is your turn to address the committee. You will know when it is your turn to speak when you hear that you are unmuted. Once again, you will know it is your turn to speak when you hear unmuted. We will wait for approximately 1 minute to allow for individuals to call in. When it is your turn, if you wish, please state your name and organization. Do we have any public comment?
We have one. Caller, if you're there, go ahead. Caller, if you can hear us, go ahead. Okay, Randy, we're good to go.
Okay. One moment here. Okay, next would be reviewing guidelines for the nominations. And I'm going to read over the general guidelines. The committee chair or his or her designee will lead the award selection meeting. Post staff will be present to serve as neutral facilitators and are available to advise the committee of any further information they have regarding any specific nomination, not for purposes of influencing a decision, but rather to provide any clarifying information regarding the package or knowledge of the nominee. The committee chair or his or her designee will select an advisory committee member as a scribe to record factors to present findings to the commission. I'll just go ahead and take the notes on this myself. The committee chair or his or her designee will serve as the spokesperson to make the recommendations to the commission. Committee members do not necessarily need to excuse themselves if they know one of the nominees. If there is a fiduciary employer-employee relationship between a committee member and a nominee, if a committee member is a relative or a close friend with a nominee, or if in the committee member's professional determination, he/she believes it would be in the best interest if he or she recused, the committee member may elect to abstain on any decision with respect to that nominee. The decision to recuse is exclusively that of the committee member, and the reason need not be disclosed. The committee is responsible for reaching consensus and recommending a winner to the commission. The committee should be prepared to articulate to the commission why the final decision was made. To preserve the integrity of the award, if, in the opinion of the committee, there is no nomination that reaches the threshold criteria of the respective award, there is no necessity to present the award. And I'll just make a note that previously we have exercised that, and then also we've exercised that with a runner-up if we had one that we didn't believe reached the threshold or the qualifications. It is imperative that any concerns or differences of opinion with respect to any nominee be discussed in the selection forum rather than before the full commission. Post staff are not allowed to advocate for any nominee, nor are they allowed to exercise any vote. Now I'm going to review the nominations list. For individual achievement, we have two nominees, Jorge M. Ramirez, District Attorney Investigative Captain. I believe that was Monterey County. I have it here. And Ken George, Academy Coordinator. For organizational achievement, California Highway Patrol Middle Management Training Course and California Department of Insurance Enforcement Branch Headquarters Training Unit. For lifetime achievement, we have one nominee, which is Mike R. Golly, Deputy DA and Post Instructor. And for the O.J. Bud Hawkins Exceptional Service Award, we have two nominees, Edward C. Flores, Director of Program Services, South Bay Regional Training Consortium, and Rich Meraz, Captain, Retired Los Angeles PD. And I have action summary forms. You've all received these for each of the categories. For the individual and the organization, individual, organizational, and lifetime, the criteria that we are going to record are under 3 categories: innovation, impact, and recognition. For the O.J. Bud Hawkins Exceptional Service Award, the categories are contributions, legacy, dedication, and exceptional service. And I know that we've had discussion on some of these things before. Am I able to share my screen? Nope. I guess I'm going to read more stuff. Lucky you. All right. So I just want to read the criteria, the evaluation criteria. This is on the post website before we start with each of these categories, so it's fresh in our minds. For individual achievement, the award for individual achievement is given for remarkable effort or accomplishment resulting in a singularly significant or extraordinary contribution to public law enforcement training. The individual's contribution must involve innovation, a demonstrably effective project, task, or assignment that has significantly impacted or benefited law enforcement training at the organizational, local, or state level. Outstanding contributions may include, but are not limited to, innovative approaches in the preparation, presentation, application, implementation, evaluation, planning, and/or management of law enforcement training programs. At this point, I'm going to open it up to the committee for discussion on our 2 nominees for the individual achievement: Jorge Ramirez, District Attorney Investigative Captain, and Ken George, Academy Coordinator. One at a time, please.
Morning, Randy. I was looking at these, and on these 2, I think when you lay out the criteria between these 2, I kind of went with Jorge Ramirez, Monterey County, just in terms of, I mean, I think there's broad impact to the ICI courses he does, but then also I was kind of impressed with him kind of tackling the LGBTQ issue and putting the training together with that. So in terms of innovation, I think it was a little bit out in some way kind of outside of the scope of what he needed to do, but he saw a need and put something together with a lot of good feedback. I think Ken George has obviously done a lot of good with Allen Hancock Academy, and there's certainly a lot of impact there, but it was very much in line with what the role is. And I think in terms of these 2, George just kind of stepped out of the box a little bit to do something different.
Thank you for that. Yes, he does specialize with DV and sexual assault update for patrol officers, is what I understood, to help them prepare a better case. And then, yeah, he found a need to do the trainer for the LGBT awareness for law enforcement. And he's trained over 500 law enforcement professionals and over 1,000 members of the public. Any other comments?
Randy, that would fall under the first criteria of a single effort contributing to law enforcement training as an individual. So I believe that I'm going to agree with Jason, even though he wanted me to the punch, that his descriptors and his impact and his reputation and recognition descriptions on all the information definitely hit all the criteria for this award.
Other comments? Does anybody disagree with selecting Jorge Ramirez for the recipient of the individual award?
Sounds good to me.
Thank you, Sarah.
Agreed.
So let's handle this one to completion first. Some bullet points for innovation, the category of innovation. And then after I get some bullet points, then I can write up something that flows that I can present to the commission.
I think to start with, he identified the need for the LGBT training that he put together and started presenting that. And then I think you also mentioned, he also identified a need from a DA's perspective, some training to do for sexual assault. And I can't remember what the other one was right now, but for patrol officers for more effective reports and prosecutions. Beyond the scope of something like an ICI core course or something like that.
Okay.
Hey, Randy, it's Esri. I think and I think it goes to the point that Chief Salazar made here that the innovation behind it, but he also identified this with the need that wasn't necessarily something that had to be done, but being innovative in having that course take place to help educate the individuals that he was teaching in the groups. And I think it even says right here, there's often a staleness in a lot of trainings, and his willingness to always stay with current trends and have a sound voice in deciphering topics is incredibly impressive. So I agree in the sense that this just wasn't part of his regular job assignment. This was going above and beyond and finding a need for a course and then taking the willingness to go teach it and then have it be successful, I think goes to that point also. And I'm having internet problems, so I'm unable to be on video. I apologize for that.
Right. Okay, that looks good for innovation, unless somebody has something else that you want to add for innovation. Okay, for impact, just the obvious impact is that he's put on 25 classes in several counties, trained over 500 law enforcement professionals, over 1,000 members of the public. And he caused his DA to receive an award from the from CDAA, California District Attorneys Association.
Yeah, I think on impact, Randy, I mean, I think there's obviously the numbers in terms of number of people, but I think there's also some cultural impact and longer term kind of impacts in terms of like what he did with the training for the patrol officers and reports. I mean, that's almost immeasurable because you don't know how much more successful maybe some filings were, prosecutions were, and there's an impact to that you can't really maybe quantify with what we have here, but I think it is an impact. And then on the other piece, just from a cultural perspective, shifting perspectives and awareness. There's an impact with that too. So beyond just 500 people taught or something along those lines.
Definitely. And he does teach a lot of different other courses. ICI core and sexual assault. Any other comments on impact? And then lastly, recognition.
I talk about, the amount of recognition that's come from various entities, individuals, different types of folks, students, obviously the public. That is a large amount of impact from different people. They talk about how, George is a humble man. I don't know him personally, so I can only go by what is written here. And how he recognizes what needs to be done, to teach these courses and to make folks understand his curriculum. And then they come back and say, hey, your curriculum made me help me with my case. So that recognition of the true impact and of his training is seen on the information provided. Seems like based off the information, that people really tend to understand the way he, guides his information and teaches it, and is received at a high level. So I think the reputation he has is more than outstanding.
I'm just going to add the above and beyondness of what he did. So above and beyond what would normally be expected. Seeing a need and going for it.
Okay, I have some good bullet points I can put together. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add on Mr. Ramirez?
And then under recognition, I said we should also recognize the fact that he's received all these other awards that were notated. So
Okay.
it looks like there's like 4 or 5 of them.
Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Now, for individual, we can recommend a runner-up if we believe that Ken George reaches the threshold for these categories of innovation, impact, and recognition.
Is the runner-up a shall, or is it just in case something doesn't go right?
No, we do not have to select. We don't have to select a primary recipient nor a runner-up. We've selected a primary, so it's up to us if we believe that any other nominees, which there's only one, reach the threshold required to receive the runner-up recognition.
At this point, I don't see why we would need to, unless there's a need for a runner-up. It looks like Mr. Ramirez fulfills all the requirements. Unless, there's a tradition or there's something that would need to.
We will typically select a runner-up unless a candidate does not meet the threshold, does not meet the requirements.
Did we want to review the second candidate?
As a runner-up, they get some sort of recognition, right? I mean, obviously the nomination is something, but
I don't believe, they don't receive a physical award, do they? It's just.
No, they do not. They do not.
They get notified that they were the runner-up.
And I think what he did is worthy. I think he qualifies. There's some innovative things he did with the Glock handgun, the uniform shop. There's certainly impact. I mean, they've got a lot of cadets coming through their academy.
Yeah, and my comments on that, just if we can get some conversation going here. There's things he did, like you said, with the handguns, with the radios, the uniform shop. I know that there's other places that do those things, but it's still, I think there's innovation there in making a decision to do that, and that it does have an impact. So I know that it's probably more of a local, regional impact and recognition. So we can certainly put that in there if the committee believes that it reaches the threshold.
I mean, I think in terms of a runner-up, I mean, it's good to recognize him for it, because there's plenty of people that would sit there and just kind of, he didn't have to do any of that. He could have just stuck with the basics. And I think those are the kind of people you want running your academies or doing that sort of stuff. They're looking for ways to be innovative and make better cops. And it's a good thing.
Okay, and just based on the things that have been said so far, I can pull some bullets out there and make a synopsis. Does anybody have any other comments or contributions to Mr. George receiving the runner-up? Does anybody believe that he does not reach the threshold? Okay, I'm going to take that as a agreement that he should be selected for the runner-up. And we will use the comments that have been made so far as a justification for it. Any other comments about the individual category?
Sheriff, I just want to let you know, you have the ability to share your screen now if you would like to.
Ah. Excellent. It's going to be Is that showing up?
It is.
Okay. I'll go ahead and read this for organizational anyway, in case there are people on the phone. This award category recognizes the achievements and contributions made by an organization dedicated to law enforcement training. The award is one wherein training responsibilities and initiatives must have resulted in substantial contributions to public law enforcement and reflect a high degree of training effectiveness and service. The contribution must be documented and describe one or more projects or programs that are primarily training in nature rather than an operational activity. Outstanding contributions may include, but are not limited to, innovative approaches in the analysis, design, development, implementation, evaluation, or delivery of law enforcement training programs. The criteria may include both quantum and long-term improvements or successes. Okay, our nominees in this category are the California Highway Patrol Middle Management Training Course and the California Department of Insurance Enforcement Branch Headquarters Training Unit. And before I make my comments, I will open it up to the committee.
I am going to recuse myself on this one only because I oversee the command that submitted this one. And so I heard the rules previous, but I don't think it would be appropriate for me to comment either way. And so I won't weigh in on this one.
Okay, can you remain available if we have questions or clarification issues?
Yep, not a problem at all.
Okay. Any comments?
Which one are we starting with? Are we going with what?
Let's start with, just because it's on the top of my stack, California Department of Insurance, Enforcement Branch Headquarters Training Unit. Actually, if anybody wants to just give your thoughts on who should receive this award, go ahead and do that, and then we can go into the details of it.
When I was reading the California Department of Insurance information, it really caught my attention about how they went from, having these issues and improving and bringing them up to, where they're at now with their training and their FTO program. And they've adapted, they expanded a 3-week basic investigator course to meet all the requirements, and all the information that everybody has on their screen. I'm assuming that we definitely don't have to repeat over, but I think that they had a really good impact on going from, being somebody who's possibly feeling like they're struggling on their training to a successful, FTO program for this department that's actually effective more than what they had prior. So the California Highway Patrol one was definitely impactful reading too. It's an attachment. And definitely we can say that they're succeeding in their training components and what they do. I was definitely impacted by reading the California Department of Insurance one though. And I believe also just based off my knowledge of what they do or don't do. Randy, what's your first criteria? Go ahead, tell us your criteria on this award. Maybe it'll help for communication. So let's just check off the right criteria and then we can move from there.
Well, again, it's the same. The categories are innovation,
Okay. I didn't want
impact,
to double check. Okay.
and recognition.
I have a question, Randy, and maybe one of the post staff can help remember, because I think we evaluated a similar proposal or nomination from CHP on their supervisory course. I don't remember if they received the award was last year or the year before on that one.
I think wasn't that in December? Is that the one you're talking about, Jason?
Yeah, CHP received that award for supervisory last go around.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess my 2 cents is I think there's some innovative stuff with the DOI's submittal, with the virtual reality. It's a little bit different. I'm a big fan of the CHP program. I've actually, because of their last submission, I've sent some people to their class to plagiarize and kind of copy some of it here. So I think there's a lot of good benefits and we got some good feedback out of that, but to some degree, it's basically just the management version of the supervision one they did last time. So I kind of lean a little bit towards the DOI one on that one.
I think it's a fresh reminder on, how like you're saying, Jason, they did have already a baseline for this criteria. And I think the California Department of Insurance definitely had to start from less of a basic foundation for it, and where they've gone from point A to Z is pretty good. And I think it needs to be recognized. So Randy, on your innovation category, do you have a bullet point there yet?
Well, let's hold up for just a second on that. To avoid, because I'm a big opponent of groupthink, and I would like to hear if anybody has justifications that they'd like to present for the CHP Middle Management Training course.
Randy, I think it's worthy of the award, but I agree with Chief Salazar. I think the DOI is kind of sticks out a little bit more because this was a replication of the prior. That's the only difference. It's a great program, though. I mean, I think it's worthy, definitely. When you talk about runner-ups and things, I mean, these are two tough ones, but I think the DOI kind of does jump out. That's something that's a little bit outside the box for them. Just my two thoughts.
Very innovative.
Thank you for that.
Certainly very innovative, like Eric said, outside the box for sure.
Okay, so bullet points for innovation. I think we are in agreement here that Department of Insurance. So bullet points are developing the program, and then they had they built an in-house application to document all the FTO activity that's available to all the trainer, the trainee, and management. It's all available for viewership and transparency. And they can get immediate feedback and identify potential training issues early that way, because they're not waiting for the handwritten document to go through the channels of approval. Anything else for innovation? Okay.
I'm sorry, Randy, did you catch the virtual reality piece in there? I didn't.
Yes.
Okay.
I have that in my notes. And anything else anybody would like included for the innovation? And next, under impact, besides the numbers, again, with 7 offices and 110 positions in those offices, they're keeping their training consistent across all of the California offices.
Do we want to mention receiving the Commissioner's Award?
We'll put that in the reputation and recognition
Okay.
section for sure. Anything else for impact?
I think you could say impact, they kind of built an entire new program to meet a need, and it's got a long-term kind of organizational change as a result.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, reputation recognition. We have the internal awards from CDI, including the Commissioner's Award. We have their partnerships with Post and district attorney offices and other law enforcement agencies throughout the state. And just my personal experience, I know that when I was with the district attorney's office and part of the California District Attorney Investigators Association, CDI joined that association and started doing concurrent training with the DA investigators. Anything else for recognition? Okay, moving on to the runner-up. We It sounded like we were in agreement that the CHP middle management training course met the threshold, definitely. And comments on the innovation. So I'm just going to pull some items from their description that they created this course that anchors around or centers around 6 pillars, and they're assigned a fellow student for accountability and support, and they return 30 days later and test their technical competence and their leadership acumen.
Well said, Randy. Well said.
Plagiarized, thank you.
Okay.
Their impact. Am I going to have to do this too?
I mean, they had I can't remember what the numbers were, but obviously a significant number of people they trained in it. And then I think impact is culture, future succession planning.
Anything else? Anybody? And their recognition.
Did they also have awards prior, like, or none? I don't know if my memory, I lost my screen on that right now, so.
Yeah, they've had previous awards with a similar program for supervisors, and I think this is just going to be recognized as another step in their progress and in developing training for the different levels within the organization.
I mean, the recognition category also has, it says reputation too.
Yeah.
And you could probably comment more on reputation on this one than the recognition. I think CHP is a very good organization, and this kind of helps build that reputation and professionalism and, setting a standard.
Well, Jason, you sent your own folks to it, right? So
I did, yeah.
So the reputation behind it is identified just based off one of our members themselves using their program.
Okay, we're moving forward. We're now at the lifetime. Unless anybody else has some other comments, I don't want to cut you off. All right, lifetime award, Mike Golly, Deputy DA, post instructor, Deputy DA with Santa Clara DA's office, and post instructor with South Bay. He is our only nominee, and from my viewpoint, I don't want to taint you or cause groupthink also, but I think that he definitely reaches the threshold for lifetime. Oh, let me go to that screen again. Sorry about that. Share screen. Okay, the lifetime achievement is presented to individuals who have contributed to public law enforcement training over a substantial period of the individual's career. During this time, individuals must have achieved a remarkable record of demonstrable results, including quality, substance, and innovative impact. He or she must have consistently maintained highly creative and effective effort, displayed exemplary service, and exhibited strong leadership skills. The individual must also enjoy a reputation as an innovator and leader among peers and within the local, state, and regional levels. And then down here, for lifetime achievement, must have been active in law enforcement training for a minimum of 15 years. And he's definitely way more than 15 years here, since 1985.
1984, yeah.
Any comments on Mike Golly for the lifetime award for excellence in training?
Well deserved, I think.
All right.
This one seemed pretty easy to justify, given everything that was on here and the examples given. Seems very worthy.
I concur, Randy.
Okay, thank you. I am, to expedite this, I'm going to just start with the innovation that he took it on himself to research, write, and publish the most current California search warrant manual, which I've used extensively over the years. He updates the manual with new additions every 18 months. Does it at his own expense, receives no compensation. And he publishes a search and seizure manual for all law enforcement and prosecutors alike. And that's in addition to all the classes he teaches in his specialties. I mean, he specialized mostly in search warrants and search and seizure, along with asset forfeiture. And then he's primary instructor for the search warrant block of the ICI Corps. And he's been in curriculum development with the ICI Corps and major drug investigations course regarding his specialties. Anything else for innovation? Okay, for impact, I thought it was pretty amazing that he has personally written over 2,200 search warrants for law enforcement officers throughout the Bay Area. I've written a couple in my total of 30 years in law enforcement. I haven't even come close to it. I don't think I'm close to 1/10 of that, or even a 1% maybe. I don't know. But it kind of got me here that all of his classes, he tells the students to reach out to him any time of the day or night, and he's received hundreds of calls. Where is this? Hundreds of times per year over the last 25 years, he gets calls. And a lot of those calls, you got to know, are at nighttime, and it refers to one that was at 2:30 in the morning. That's pretty impactful that he's provided that service to all the students of his courses over the almost 40 years that he's taught. Any other comments about impact?
I mean, over 40 years, like you said, you've used this manual, and I've used the manual before too, and it's been a long time since I've written a search warrant. So and I think that he's obviously impacted a lot of people over that time.
Anything else? Then And then his reputation, of course, dovetails with that. Received numerous awards, and then he's trained over 5,000 law enforcement officers, and received awards from CNOA and other agencies, CDAA. Anything else on recognition and reputation? Any other comments on Mr. Mike?
Qualifies all the criterias, Randy.
What's that?
Qualifies for all the criterias.
Okay,
Sheriff, I just want to give you a heads up. We have a 10-minute warning.
okay. We have one more category, OJ Bud Hawkins. I'm going to share this screen. So on this one, we have the categories of contributions, legacy, dedication, and exceptional service. And so the thing that caught my attention is the eligibility, and we may need some interpretation on this. Because for eligibility, any post staff member, subject matter expert, post advisory committee member, or post commission member may nominate or be nominated, provided they are currently in this status or were so within the previous year to their nomination. So, and I'm looking especially, and I know we have to go by these applications, and maybe we can do some interpretation, but there's neither of these are post staff members or advisory committee members or commission members. Now we have to look to see if they would be subject matter experts. I think that whether it specifically says that or not, we can probably interpret that. So, discussion. We have our two nominees are Edward C. Flores, Director of Program Services, South Bay Regional Public Safety Training Consortium, and Rich Meraz, retired captain from Los Angeles Police Department. And my first comment that I'm going to make is that I'm somewhat aware of Rich Meraz's reputation in instruction, but I'm going to say that this application is fairly tepid and not really telling the story like I would like to see it be told. I know that there's probably a lot more to be told, but it's not in here. Kind of like when the DA looks at your report and rejects it because don't have all the elements of the crime.
Randy, I'll have to recuse myself because I know the applicant.
All right, well, Randy, so let's follow up on that. Since we have a few minutes, what do you believe was missing from all the criterias?
Just from my view, I mean, I know of his reputation and I know some things outside of this nomination, but the nomination in itself, I don't think it really goes in very in depth, and presents us with the contributions and the legacy and the dedication and the exceptional service as is requested on the application.
Okay, so does Edward C. Flores present all, per se, all the elements of the crime or the elements of the criteria?
In my opinion,
Extensive,
it's written out very clearly that
Right.
it does. However, I think it's up to our committee to determine if he meets the eligibility under one of the categories that's listed on that page that
yeah,
I'll put it up one more time here.
yeah. Are you showing the criterias, Randy, or is it just like,
Um,
yeah,
right.
thank you, that's all right. Yeah. All right, so the first one is about the furtherness of the post mission and goals, right?
Yeah, the contributions that they made to further post-mission goals, yes.
And then the legacy, dedication, exceptional service.
Hey, Randy, I
Looks
mean, I
like
think,
there's- Go ahead.
I think between the two, I kind of agree with you in terms of, I mean, we have what we have to work with here. I was leaning towards Ed Flores on this just because of the scope of, I mean, what we have here gives us a better sense of the contributions over time. So, I mean, I think you're talking about really a career that involved training at various levels throughout the entire career, which kind of establishes that legacy. And then it goes a little bit beyond being an SLI presenter to someone who is presented, trained, really become an expert in the various topics, and then has also managed and coordinated an entire course and had a number of different impacts across multiple agencies as a result. So I think just kind of with what, at least with what we've been presented, it gives us a bigger picture of the broader scope and legacy here. I mean, it's not taking away anything from Captain Mraz, but I think in terms of the contributions and what we have here seems to me to be more appropriate.
And I do, just from my personal knowledge and anecdotal knowledge, I do know that I would believe that Captain Mraz definitely would qualify if it was written up. And we've had many cases in the past where we've gotten these applications that just didn't have the substance, even though the person may have been very well qualified. I can definitely pull out some bullet points and for the presentation. If anybody has anything specific they want
Sheriff,
me to make sure to include other than what's already been said.
Sheriff, may I ask a question, please?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that everyone is on board with this individual meeting the eligibility standards.
So that was why I brought that up. And yeah, thanks for reminding there, because does he qualify under the eligibility?
That's going to be your guys' call. I heard you say that earlier. And I just wanted to make sure that the group was on board with that decision.
Okay, so the only one category that he would qualify under is a subject matter expert. Can we agree that he's a subject matter expert?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay. Anybody disagree with that thought?
what's the next one?
That was it.
There's only one?
No, there's one what? There are two applicants, two nominees.
Right. No, for the meeting the criteria,
The eligibility would be
Yeah,
any
the
post staff member, subject matter expert, post advisory committee member, or post commission member may nominate or be nominated, provided they are currently in this status or were so within the previous year to their nomination. So there's the other thing. Was he a I guess he's going to be a subject matter expert within the last year, as far as we can tell here. Any disagreement with that? It's 9:59 right now. Okay. Any other comments? All right. This meeting is adjourned, and I guess we'll just stay on here for the regular advisory committee meeting, and hopefully more people pop in.
I'm sorry, Randy. I'm just want to clarify, maybe I'm not the only one. So did Mr. Chief Flores, Mr. Flores meet the criteria or the eligibility, or did he not?
I believe that we qualified him as a subject matter expert.
Okay,
Okay, we are adjourned for a minute. I have a question, Maria. Do you,
We're
Are we-
still live, just so you know.
pardon me?
They're still live, just so you know.
Okay, that was my question. Are we going to just continue streaming live?
Yes,
then
we were just
start-
going to go ahead and roll right into the advisory meeting. If you all need a break, let me know, then we'll just break for 5, or if you want to start the meeting and then break, it's up to you. Because I know that people have comfort needs that they need to attend to.
Okay, then why don't we start at 10:07? Can we do that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Do it 10:07.
1 minute warning. We'll start in 1 minute. Okay, are we ready on your end?
Vice, you ready? Yes. Sheriff, whenever you are ready.
Great. I'm now call the meeting of the Post Advisory Committee to order and welcome you all here. We are going to start with a moment of silence honoring the officers who lost their lives in the line of duty since the last meeting. And our agenda only shows one officer, but I'm going to recognize more than that have been lost. Police Officer 2, Fernando Arroyos from the Los Angeles Police Department, end of watch, January 10th, 2022. Police Officer Tyler Linehan, the Elk Grove Police Department, end of watch, January 21st, 2022. Sergeant Arthur Duron, Fowler Police Department, end of watch, February 2nd, 2022. Police Officer Nicholas Vela, Huntington Beach Police Department, end of watch, February 19th, 2022. And Police Officer Jorge David Alvarado Jr., Salinas Police Department, end of watch, February 25th, 2022. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. May we have a roll call of our committee members, please?
Banning, Beauchamp. Beauchamp, are you there?
And a reminder, please unmute your mic when you answer up to the roll call.
Bernard, DiBasilio,
Here, Evasilio here, sorry.
Oborn,
Here.
Salazar, Schmidt,
Here.
Spry,
Present, ma'am.
Swift, Viramontes,
Here.
Waltz.
Here,
Thank you.
thank you. I'd now like to introduce attending in this meeting, the Post Executive Director, Manny Alvarez, and the Assistant Executive Director, Maria Sandoval. We'll move to public comment. This is the time set aside for members of the public to comment on items on the agenda. The chair will manage the public comment period in deference to the committee's workload and meeting time constraints. Up to 15 minutes is allotted at the beginning of each meeting for public comments on items on the agenda. Members of the public who wish to speak are asked to limit their remarks to no more than 5 minutes each. If we have many people who wish to speak on the same topic, I, as the chair, may intervene and will ask that you limit remarks to no more than 1 minute. Pursuant to existing commission policy, the chair may conclude the public comment period if multiple speakers are voicing repetitive or similar statements and the 15-minute public comment period has expired. Please remember that this meeting is being transcribed, so I may politely interrupt and ask you to repeat or speak slowly and clearly so your comment can be correctly captured in the transcript. If there is anyone watching who would like to address the committee during public comment, please call in to the number shown on the screen at this time. We will take the calls on a first come, first served basis. If other persons are in the queue waiting to speak, you will be placed on hold until it is your turn to address the committee. You will know when it is your turn to speak when you hear that you are unmuted. Once again, you will know it is your turn to speak when you hear unmuted. We will wait for approximately 1 minute to allow for individuals to call in. When it is your turn, if you wish, please state your name and organization.
We do have one caller on the line, Sheriff.
Okay. If you're there, go ahead. Are they unmuted?
They're unmuted and not speaking.
If anybody is on the line and has public comment, please go ahead. Are there any other public comments?
There are none in the queue.
Okay, we will move forward. Our next item is approval of the minutes from the previous committee meeting. We have an action summary and meeting minutes of December 8th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved by Kathy Oborn.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Viramontes. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? That motion carries. Are there any announcements?
Sheriff, I believe we have to do a roll call since we're virtual.
Oh, okay. Let's do a roll call on the motion to approve the minutes of December 8th.
Banning, Beauchamp, Bernard,
Yes.
DiBasilio,
If so, approved.
Oborn,
Yes.
Salazar, Schmidt,
Yes.
Spry,
Yes, ma'am.
Swift, Piramontes,
Yes.
Waltz,
Yes.
and Young. Thank you.
Okay, now the motion carries. Are there any announcements? No announcements? And now we'll move on to the review of the commission meeting agenda. Are there any presentations that we're receiving today?
Sheriff, no advisory committee member has requested for any agenda presentation. So just to confirm,
Is it too late to request?
no, it is not.
Okay. So I did not submit mine in time, but I would like to get on number 6 of the consent agenda, SB2.
Okay. At this time, I'd like to call up Bureau Chief Jackie Nelson and Bureau Chief Colin O'Keefe, and also Chief Sylvia Moyer, who is online. We'll go ahead and start with Bureau Chief Jackie Nelson.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to present this morning on an update of SB2. I'm Jackie Nelson, and I'm the Bureau Chief overseeing the transition team. So my presentation today will be twofold. First, I'm going to give you an update on the implementation of SB2 so far. And second, I'm going to provide you with an overview of the work still to come. So we began the full-time implementation on November 1st, 2021. And in that short amount of time, we've been very successful and made significant progress. We still have a tremendous amount of work to do. So before I begin the overview, each step I'm about to detail consists of significant work by our Computer Services Bureau. They've worked tirelessly to support these efforts throughout. So thank you to them. So how did we start? How did we start our implementation? So we focused on those items that went into effect on January 1st, 2022, which involved the hiring selection standards. After identifying what those changes were, we included new disqualifiers which included new disqualifiers and minimum hiring standards, and we had to make immediate notification to the field. So post-issued bulletin number 2021-47 detailing these changes. We created an SB2 page on Post's website, along with an FAQ page to help answer questions. We leveraged the regional consultants to distribute information and direct inquiries to the transition team. So after that, one of our first projects was to do a workload analysis and staffing model. As a reminder, there is not an apples to apples comparison to determine workload. So we used 3 different methods and did an estimate on what we believed the closest projection for workload consisted of. After which we completed the staffing model to fit the workload analysis. Each of the positions identified required an hourly task breakdown for the entire year to support each position requested. So as you can imagine, this was a very tedious process while working with a lot of unknown factors. So moving on, we then, in order to bring effective regulations into compliance with the new mandates, we submitted several Section 100 changes to regulation. These were fairly straightforward because they were anchored by legislation. So an example of that would be the new minimum age of 21 years of age at the time of appointment that was conducted through a Section 100 regulation change. We're currently updating the personal history statement to be compliant with SB2, along with creating a newly created verification form, which will be mandated as part of the background. Post has developed several forms as training aids or tools to help agencies with the new requirements, which will be available soon. The background manual and background investigator scores are also being updated to reflect the changes as well. Post developed a specific California law enforcement portal with the National Decertification Index to support the mandate that agencies query the system as part of the hiring process. So agencies do not have the authority to go direct to the index unless they have been previously authorized by Post. This is a requirement by the index. So we had to create and develop a process to allow for that query by each agency to be able to do that. So it's been a lot of work as well. We've been working on modifying our internal systems, what we call an EDI. I'm sure you all know what that is, to update our agency inspection database to be inclusive of the new requirements. This will benefit our regional consultants while they're out doing their agency compliance audits in the field. So moving on to the proof of eligibility, which you've all heard, and it's mandated by SB2. So there are two components to this. The first component is post responsibility, and that is issuing proof of eligibility to any currently employed peace officer who does not already possess a basic certificate. So what that means is we have to, effective January 1, 2023, do a retro issuance of these individuals. This is a one-time only mandate for post. So we've been working diligently on this process, which is heavily dependent on IT platforms. We've identified approximately 6,400 peace officers who will need to be issued a POE on January 1st, 2023. Sorry, POE is short for proof of eligibility. I apologize. To ensure these peace officers are eligible, we've begun auditing each officer's records before we issue the POE to ensure compliance for each one. So the second component of the POE is the hiring agency's responsibility. Beginning January 1, 2023, agencies must apply for the proof of eligibility for any newly hired officer who does not already possess a basic. So this will be the process moving forward. Agencies will be able to apply for the certification using our existing EDI system. The notice of appointment will include an attestation from the agency stating the appointee meets all of the new hiring standards. Post has already created the attestation, which will be incorporated into the new notice of appointment. Once Post receives the notice of appointment and confirms it is complete, Post will issue a proof of eligibility. It's at this time, the officer will be appointed to the Post agency roster, and the officer's profile will be updated to include their certification. The workflow for this process is coming along very well and should be ready by implementation date. So because we're going to be issuing a certification based on the agency's attestation, it is likely during an agency compliance audit that we will find backgrounds which were not totally complete or correct. So we had to create a process for and a regulation on how to resolve the situation to ensure compliance. And so we are coming along really well with that right now. So long-term, the goal for Post will be to review background investigations electronically online before we issue the proof of eligibility. However, that is not part of the initial implementation. That will come in the next phase. So we've put a lot of time into developing the logistics of the case management and investigations component. We are finalizing the complaint form now. It is nearly done. The process to allow citizens to file complaints online directly to Post is ready to go, and we will be making other forms available for filing complaints to members of the public. Several new regulations have been drafted regarding the investigations and officers' rights. The draft investigative procedures and policies manual have been written based on outreach conducted with other states and California agencies. And all of the required notification documents listed in SB2 have been drafted as well and are pretty well completed. So we've been working closely with the Department of Justice to coordinate the transfer of criminal records as mandated for the decertification purposes. So the groundwork has been established through between Post and DOJ, and we're continuing to work on this collaboratively. As required by SB2, Post is in the final revision of the Affidavit of Separation. As you know, that is now required for every time an employee, or I'm sorry, peace officer separates from employment regardless of the reason. So the Affidavit of Separation will become part of the new notice of termination. The bill also provides for peace officers to, if they choose, to voluntarily surrender their certification. The process for the surrender is completed along with all the associated documentation required. Also, as you know, once Post makes a recommendation, take action against a peace officer certification, The officer may request a review before the Peace Officer Standards Accountability Advisory Board and the Commission. We have finalized this process and are just finishing the details on that now. So SB2 requires post to develop a 40-hour course for members of the Peace Officer Accountability Advisory Board. Post has started this process, identified topics, identified subject matter experts, and is working on curriculum development for that course. We have created a draft of the hearing procedure manual for the board, similar to the manual that this body has to abide by. Post has met with the Office of Administrative Hearings to create the workflow of the cases that will be forwarded to an administrative law judge for an evidentiary hearing. There's still quite a bit of work to be done on this since there's a lot of legal components associated with this. We have conducted a significant amount of outreach with involved stakeholders and will continue to do so. So Post is scheduled to create an informational video, which will be distributed as a reference point here shortly. So we've worked diligently to identify those agencies that are not Post participating, but mandated under SB2. So we will be doing outreach to those agencies to begin their introduction to Post and get them into compliance with the new requirements. We're estimating right now that we have approximately 50 agencies that are not Post participating. We've spent a lot of time researching IT platforms that can meet the needs of SB2. So we need a system which will allow nearly 700 agencies to report cases of serious misconduct to a single system. This is no small feat, as you can imagine. However, in the unlikely event, I sound like an airline. In the unlikely event of okay, anyway, sorry, I'll continue. In the unlikely event that we cannot get this done by January 1 of 2023, we've created a draft contingency plan to allow Post to comply with SB2 using alternate methods. So at this time, I'd like to turn this over to Computer Services Bureau Chief Colin O'Keefe to provide an update on the procurement of the IT platform, and then I will come back and continue my overview. Thank you, Colin.
Thank you. Good morning. Colin O'Keefe, Bureau Chief for Computer Services here at Post. As Jackie just mentioned, and as you know, SB2 requires California law enforcement agencies to report incidents of alleged officer misconduct, commencement of investigations, and investigative dispositions to Post. And we will need some sort of case management system to facilitate that. The volume of agency reports is estimated to be in the low thousands per year to start. And receiving, routing, storing, and analyzing this information cannot be accommodated using the paper records and email processes. And because SB2 imposes new mandates, current Post systems are not geared toward this functionality, so we'll require a new system rather than upgrades or enhancements to systems in place. So in preparation for these mandates, both law enforcement consultant and technical staff at Post evaluated at a high level 7 different off-the-shelf as well as custom solutions for both technical capability and business suitability. Staff received overviews from vendor representatives, traveled to other state Post agencies to analyze comparable business processes, and met with several California law enforcement agencies that have implemented a variety of case management and record management systems. During this research, staff identified the vendor-provided system called Mark 43, which appears to meet business and technical requirements. The product also has a presence at several California state agencies, including CHP, Parks, and others. Other systems we evaluated also have varying degrees of similar functionality and could be potential alternatives if the need arises. Finally, in anticipation of this contract request that will be presented at the Finance Committee, in December of 2021, Post staff submitted mandatory Stage 1 business analysis and financial analysis documentation to the California Department of Technology's Oversight Division. Department of Technology's approval, as well as project funding, are pending. If approved by the Commission at the Finance Committee, system procurement, implementation, and configuration should not exceed $2 million for the first year, and recurring costs after the first year are estimated to be $1.8 million, dependent on the number of agency user licenses required. I'm happy to take any questions about the case management system before sending it back to Jackie.
Okay, thank you, Colin. I'll continue on and certainly will happy to address any questions you may have at the end of our presentation as well. So I want to talk a little bit about the regulations to support SB2. We realize that these regulations are foundational and ongoing. It's safe to say that there will be modifications and more regulations as this process unfolds. I hope that these bodies bear with us as we work our way through that process. So currently, as of right now, we've modified 9 existing regulations and created 14 new regulations, which will be presented to the full commission in May. We've worked closely with the Office of Administrative Law on these regulations and have a designated point of contact because of the volume of work and the importance and significance of the regulations that we are creating. So we anticipate that these regulations are going to be put out for public comment on March 25th of this year in order to meet the timeline associated with the bill implementation date. So one regulation I want to bring into particular is the regulation we will be creating about the definition of serious misconduct. As you guys know, SB2 required the commission to place into regulation a definition of serious misconduct, which included some minimal content that had to be included. So how did POST start the process of helping the commission come up with this definition? We held 2 workshops with different stakeholder groups to obtain input about what should be included in the definition. So in order for POST to remain as neutral as possible in that process, we had facilitators conduct these workshops on behalf of POST. So one of the facilitators is with us today and is here to present information obtained from the workshops to you for your consideration. So at this time, I'd like to introduce retired Chief Sylvia Moyer, who will present information regarding the process that unfolded. So Chief, if you wouldn't mind, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackie. How's the sound?
Good, Sylvia, you're good. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, thank you to you, the advisory committee, and good morning. It is really a profound honor for myself and the team that I'm part of to support Californians, California policing, and California Post in this effort to interpret and implement the significant legislation. And Jackie has kind of teed up for you. What I will give you is an excruciatingly brief and high-level understanding of what we are going to present at commission today. Really, our team and our process, our team is really 3 people that we were brought to bear and buttress the very important work that is being done and buttress the team, the capable but very thinly stretched team and heavily burdened post team in this effort. So my hunch is that we were asked to be part of this because we are 3 recently retired executives from policing and law enforcement. And I served in California for nearly 30 years and then most recently retired from a state that has peace officer certification. Another member of our team is from another state, Illinois, that has peace officer certification. So we dove in. So this is what we're going to present today at commission. We're going to talk about the process of assembling key input sources, as Jackie just referenced, from all levels of law enforcement in California, and then the key collaborators as identified by the author, Senator Bradford's office. We're going to talk about how Post can interpret the law and ideas leading to regulatory language. We're going to present some options for a definition of serious misconduct for the consideration by the Post Commission, and briefly describe the inputs that led to an understanding about the 9 characteristics of conduct. So the aim is going to be to review the draft, to review the 9 areas of and characteristics of conduct that would lead to a review by the board for peace officer certification and consideration. Then we are going to attempt to work with the commission today to seek constructive input for consideration in a crisp fashion. Not complete creation today, but a very crisp fashion of what comes up for them. And then finally, an understanding that Jackie will provide and the team will provide regarding the timing for this post commission to process this massive amount of information and the decision-making deadlines that they are facing. So we will review 2 definitions of serious misconduct. Rather than bringing those up for your digestion, I'm going to just verbally read those to you. And when I do this, the ask for you is just to consider that this is a coupling of not only the legislation, the intent, but it is derived from the law enforcement practitioners that we assembled and those that were assembled that are the collaborators from across the state of California as identified by Senator Bradford's office. So I'm going to read these to you and see if anything comes up for you that you would like to add. The one is serious misconduct is a single or repeated act or omission which violates one or more of what will be listed, set forth below the 9 criteria, demonstrating an officer's failure to uphold the community, ethical, and professional standards, therefore temporarily or permanently reflecting a lack of fitness to serve as a peace officer in the state of California. That's an important distinction that we will derive because it's a different question. Conduct that would violate an agency, policy, or procedure versus that which precludes an individual from either serving as a police officer in California temporarily or permanently. That's an important distinguishing characteristic of the legislation. So the second offering of a definition of serious misconduct is this. Serious misconduct is a single or repeated act or omission which violates one or more of the 9 criteria set forth below. Those are those 9 characteristics, demonstrating an officer's failure to uphold the community, ethical, and professional standards, prompting a review to determine the ineligibility or revocation of a peace officer certification. The important thing for this is that the commission is going to be provided these 2 examples. They're going to have an opportunity to give input that the entire team will digest and then present in May. So we're going to present those definition drafts, then going to dive into the input that was given to each of the 9 criteria. I'm just going to list the criteria for you so it's top of mind. Number 1 is dishonesty. Number 2 is abuse of power. 3 is physical abuse. 4 is sexual assault. 5 is bias. 6 is sufficiently egregious. It is a definition that we have to come up with for sufficiently egregious. 7 is a law enforcement gang. 8, failure to cooperate. And 9, final, is failure to intercede. Those are the 9 areas of conduct that would, if an officer as a single or repeated act or omission of any of those 9 would prompt a review by the board for a suspension or revocation of one certification as a peace officer in California. So we're going to go into that in depth in the meeting, but for you, just wanted to highlight and be, like I said, excruciatingly brief so that you have a consciousness and understanding of how we're going to proceed in the commission meeting, and then just open this up for anything that you want to provide in terms of input. So that is my very brief statement to you, my briefing for you. And I have to again reiterate that your input, your contribution as part of this advisory committee really enriches California policing. And I appreciate you tackling this as part of your ancillary responsibilities and leadership imperative in California. So thank you. Jackie, back to you.
Great. Great. Thank you, Chief. That was a fantastic overview. I appreciate that. So in conclusion, before I finish up to hit and open for questions to you, I just want to talk to you about just a few steps that are forthcoming still that we have to look at, albeit there will be many more. These are just some highlighted ones that we know are in our near future. So we are in the process and we are still need to do identifying processes at every level of this implementation to include the policies, procedures, desk manuals, those types of things. We need to write duty statements for all of the projected 127 positions that will be required to pull off SB2. We need to complete the hiring and selection of those 127 positions. And then we have to onboard. Are we good, Tobias? Look like we're, okay, sorry. Look like we lost video. And then we have to onboard and train all of those 127 people in a pretty quick turnaround time frame. One of the areas we have not dedicated very much time to as of yet is the public records component. There are a lot of details in SB2 that still need our listed as far as the public records that we need to get some detailed attention afforded to, including how will we manage the significant increase that we are expecting to receive as a matter of the implementation. So that's an area we still need to put a lot of work into. Obviously, as Colin spoke earlier, our IT platform, that's our biggest lift that we're expecting coming forward. So not only getting the platform on board, but getting that platform to meet the needs as we have them. And then deploying and providing training on that IT platform to all of these 700-ish agencies across the state is going to be a huge lift. We are going to start next week actually developing a communications plan and outreach plan to try to get this information out to as many people as possible. And then, of course, we have to train the Accountability Advisory Board on their roles and expectations. And then obviously the commission will need to be trained specifically to the decertification process as well as we move forward. So that's just a highlight of some things that we know we still have pending. And I don't intend that to be inclusive because we know there are a lot of moving parts and areas still to get to on this. But having said that, in conclusion, before I open it up for comments and questions from this body, I just want to say I am very grateful for the work that this team has done thus far and everyone within Post. We have accomplished tremendous amount of work considering that we are doing this with no additional staffing or funding. We're doing this as an ancillary or secondary assignment. So for that, I thank the team that has supported this all the way. And of course, our executive office who has supported this tremendously. So having said that, I will stop talking now and I will turn it over for questions for anything you may have for any of us present here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie and Colin and Chief Moyer and your teams. I know it's been said many times through the past months about what a heavy lift this is. And I can't even believe there's so much that's being done already and there's so much more ahead of us. A couple questions I have, and I wasn't writing fast enough, but you mentioned about agencies applying for certification for new employees. And when does that, you set a date and I didn't catch it.
Yes, so agencies will have to begin doing their application for certification of their staff on January 1 of 23.
Okay. And then is that also when the affidavit of separation comes into play? And is that going to be incorporated in the EDI component?
Yes, so we'll have two different systems. All of our hiring processes will still continue to go through our EDI platform. And then the investigative case management system will be a separate system, which is the IT platform that Colin was talking about. So yes, that would be correct.
Okay, and then whoever can answer this, It's probably in the legislation, but the 9 categories, dishonesty, abuse of power, etc. Are there specific definitions of those components yet?
Can you clarify that question for me, please, Sheriff?
There were the 9 categories: dishonesty, abuse of power, physical abuse, sexual assault, bias, sufficient egregiousness, law enforcement gang, and failure to cooperate, failure to intercede. Are there specific definitions of each of those?
So we took input during the stakeholder meetings with the 2 different workshops, and we are trying to come up with the definition in advance for the commission to review so that they can further define each one of those 9. So yes, we are working on bringing that forward to the commission as well.
Any other committee members have questions?
Yeah, Randy, I'd like to follow up with the 9 categories. As I wrote them down, all of them had a question mark next to them because one of them, like law enforcement gang, like what is the definition of a law enforcement gang? And who, your subject matter experts obviously will also be able to contribute to those definitions, but I believe that there's opinions about them. And we have to make, it is very important to know that every single category on all these, just like all the other stuff we do with internal affairs and all these citizen complaints and et cetera, as we do in California, have specifics on each of, these violations. So that was the first one that caught my attention just because we have our own opinions about them. And then I have a question about Mark 43. Is that the only case management system that will be used, or are there different systems besides Mark 43?
Like that. Yeah, thank you. We evaluated several different systems, and at the moment, it appears that Mark 43 as a single installed system would meet our needs. The specific requirement that hung us up over the others was agency submission. A lot of existing case management systems are basically closed rooms. They don't allow outsiders to contribute information, which in this case we need for that data to be transmitted from agencies to post. And it appears that Mark 43 would be a singular system that would allow us to do that and then route internally and process it.
I am aware of many agencies that are using them and have had some issues with that system. So I'm sure that as Post moves forth with implementing Mark 43 as a case management system, then maybe by then some of these have been fixed throughout other agencies throughout California.
Randy, I had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. Can I?
Sorry, go ahead.
The second question that Ms. Fry had moving forward on the 9 characteristics. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was more of a followed up with Randy about, yeah, I agree. Those, they would have to be, each category will have to have their subcategories of definitions. And that was definitely a list of a question I had as well.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, on the complaint form that was discussed, I think it's the electronic form that's going to be on the Post website. Is that to initiate the complaints moving forward that would venture into those 9 categories? Is that what that is for?
Partially, that's correct. Yes. So the legislation requires that Post be able to accept complaints from members of the public or citizens. And so that would be one area in which we could receive the investigations on the 9 areas that we're discussing or serious misconduct. It's important though to point out that once we do receive those complaints, we will be coordinating with the individual agency for one to find out if they are already investigating the same complaint. And if not, we will be referring that back to the agency for investigation, and then it'll come back to us at the tail end. So that would be just one component. Otherwise, the agencies will have to report directly to us utilizing our case management system once they become aware of a potential allegation of misconduct that would meet the definition that Chief Moyer was talking about.
Great. Yeah, you answered both. I was going to ask you to follow up with, they came to the agency, but
Yeah.
you answered that already. So the agency is going to be responsible too for the two-way communication with Post, and Post vice versa. If Post receives a complaint, they then send it to the agency, at least as an advisory, or is this talking about just new complaints, or what about complaints that go into the rear as well, like prior complaints? So if you had a guy who had made an IA complaint, say in 2015, it was unsustained by the agency, do they still have the ability, correct, to go online with Post, fill out that complaint form, and then Post then has a two-way communication with the agency? But it has to be those 9 criteria, right? It's not something, oh, he yelled at me during a traffic stop and I didn't like it, something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly correct. So
Okay.
it does have to meet one of those 9 definitions or characteristics of serious misconduct.
Okay, and then, I'm sorry, did I miss a date when those were going to be further discussed? Does that go to commission for discussion, or does that go somewhere else?
So the process that we have for that as of right now is we are going to open that definition up for public comment on May 25th.
May
And
25th,
we-
okay.
Yeah, so then we will have input from them that we can take public comment into consideration. And if we need to make any modifications to the definition, we can do that before we present the final regulation to commission in May. And that would be the method that we're going forward on, getting that put into regulation.
Okay. So is it March 25th or May 25th that it'll be published?
March 25th is the public.
March 25th. Okay.
It has
I'm
to-
sorry that it'll go to public. Yeah.
Yep, that's okay. It has to be open for 45 days pursuant to the OAL rulemaking policies, laws,
Right.
regulations. So, yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
And just to be clear, all of this has to be completed for the January 2023 implementation, correct?
That's correct. Yes, very condensed time frame.
Any other committee members have questions? Okay, again, thank you to you and your teams. And I apologize for giving the short notice on having, I know you're repeating this afternoon. So, but all right, let's go back to our commission agenda. Are there any other items on the consent agenda? That's items 1 through 10 that any committee members have comments or questions about. Okay. And the finance committee will be meeting later. Next would be item D. Report on increase of spending authority for the executive director. And I've read all the supporting documentation and also the information that was presented in the last commission meeting and finance meeting on this. Anybody have any comments about this item? Is there any committee member that objects to our committee recommending approval of this item? The next would be item E, report on amendment to Commission Regulation 1005 minimum standards for training. This has to do with repealing sections that have to do with investigation trial preparation course, because that's being replaced by the district attorney investigator transition course. Does anybody have any comments on this item? Does anybody have any objection to us as a body recommending the approval of this item? Okay. That covers the commission agenda items. Did I miss anything, Maria?
No, you have not.
Okay. Next, we'll move on to advisory committee member reports. And I'm going to be calling on you in the order that you happen to appear on my screen. Julie, do you have a report?
I had questions in regards to the committee's time, and like, how can I find out where all the positions are in regards to like your position as a chair? Do we have a VP on our committee? I have just information about that. I don't know if this is the right place to do that, because honestly, I'm learning as I go along with this.
This would be a time for you to, if you have a report from your organization that you're representing.
Mm-hmm. No, I did speak to who I'm representing, and there is nothing to report based off today's agenda.
Okay, thank you. Eric?
Nothing to report. Thank you, Randy.
Kathy?
Yeah, just a question. Can we find out what's happening with AB 89 since we lost Shenu Weber from the Chancellor's office? And it would be great to know how it's going to affect the criminal justice, administration of justice programs in the state of California.
They have nominated somebody to fill her seat. At this point, our legislative liaison, Megan Polis, said that there's no update at this point. But we are going to fill her seat.
Yes, Shenu's seat on the commission, on our advisory committee.
Correct.
We were informed that there was going to be a committee formed to look at implementation for AB 89. And I know I've bugged Chief Salazar about it and some other people, but nothing has risen to the top as in terms of how we can participate and be part of have a voice in what's going on. Manny?
Yep. Mr. Chair, may I interject?
Please do.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Member Oborn, there's been some transition at the Community College Chancellor's Office. This afternoon, the Post Commission will hear the nomination for a new person to replace Vice Chancellor Weber. Her name is Sandra Sanchez from the College Chancellor's Office. So that will be heard this afternoon. If they approve, then she will be part of the advisory committee starting in May. In terms of the implementation of AB 89, obviously that falls to the Community College Chancellor's Office to put those things together. We had a discussion with the Chancellor's Office about 2 months ago, and they were in the process of putting that together. So we have not heard yet on any subcommittees or been asked to participate in that process, although obviously the legislation calls for us and others to be participants. I think they're just getting started.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, next, Juan.
I have nothing, sir.
Sheriff De Basilio.
I have nothing. Thank you, Sheriff.
And finally, representing California Highway Patrol.
Nothing for me, and I apologize. I got internet issues, got kicked out of the meeting if I missed anything. Nothing.
You're going to have to make sure you make that payment on your AOL subscription.
You got it.
Okay. And my report from Capco is that we've actually gotten a little boost, a little energy in our organization, and we have a oncoming new executive director who's retired about a little over a year ago, and is going to be doing some traveling and trying to not only create new chapters, but also incorporate with LETMAs around the state and do a lot more of intercommunication with our LETMAs. That concludes our advisory committee member reports, unless I left somebody out. No, okay. Next item, F, commissioner comments. Are there any commissioners who would like to make comments here?
Hi, it's Joyce, and I have no comments. Thank you.
Thank you for your no comment. And I don't see any other commissioners on here, and there is no old business. The new business listed would be Tammy Morrell, chairperson of CADA, California Academy Directors Association, has nominated Walter Allen for appointment to the advisory committee to fill the CADA seat. And in our presence, Professor Kathy Oborn, president of California Association of Justice Educators, KG, is up for reappointment. Current term expires May 2022. The commission will be addressing that this afternoon. Future meetings listed. I don't see any Zoom meetings here. That's a good thing. May 24th through 26th, 2022, San Diego, California.
Sheriff,
August.
that has been changed. The location has been changed for the May 24th through 26th. It's going to be in the beautiful thriving metropolis of West Sacramento due to some financial restraints that we're currently facing at Post.
Understood. Subsequent to that would be August 31st, September 1st. Location is to be determined. November 30th through December 1st, 2022, again in West Sacramento. Moving on to 2023, March 1st and 2nd to be determined, and June 7th and 8th, 2023 in West Sacramento. Are there any other comments or items to be presented? And Executive Director Alvarez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I apologize for interjecting. Thank you. For the first time, I think ever, I have to clarify or correct something that I've said that was incorrect. We have not received a formal nomination for Ms. Sanchez. So we will be, we received something informally. It just hasn't been a formal request yet. So I misspoke saying that they would hear it this afternoon. They will not hear it this afternoon. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Assistant Executive Director Sandoval. We had discussed appointing a chair and a vice chair. We have a kind of a skeleton crew today. Do we want to move forward with, or are we able to move forward with that, considering who we have or who we don't have in attendance today?
There is no need for a quorum, if that's what you're asking. If this is something that you want to move forward through as a group, we can go ahead and do that. This is the meeting that we are supposed to do the nominations for the chair and the vice chair. It's completely up to this group.
My suggestion, seeing how few committee members are attending, would be to agendize it for the beginning of our next meeting, which is scheduled to be in person, and turn over the gavel after the introduction and the beginning of the meeting.
Sheriff, this is Rick. I would agree with that.
Not that I want to hang on to this chair in that much longer, but I think that to find people that are interested in chairing the meetings and leading this committee.
Kind of getting the impression that you are trying to hang on to this chair, but that's fine. We will put on the agenda for the next meeting.
I think my question got answered. Thank you.
Okay, any other items before we adjourn?
Just one more issue, Sheriff. If you need to find any information about the makeup of the advisory board and the terms, it is on our website. If you need some help finding it, let me know and I will send you the link.
Thank you, Maria.
All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, everyone.